Good morning. We're a very backward-looking society. We're backward-looking in that we've all personally experienced the past. We have evidence of the past all around us. The past is very knowable. And yet we're going to be spending the rest of our lives in the future. So it's almost as if we are walking backwards into the future. My job as a futurist is to help turn you around, to help give you some little glimpse of what might be coming up around the corner, some idea of how you can use it and leverage it in interesting and different ways. Today is, what systems are we employing today that are the equivalent to Roman numerals that are preventing us from doing great things? What systems do we have today? Does somebody want to say the Dewey Decimal System? In the US, we have a half-implemented metric system where we're buying 3.2-liter car engines and putting in quarts of oil. We're using a calendar system around the world. We have 30 days some months, 31 days other months, and then you have February. Is there a good reason for that? Daylight savings time. You know, I love Ben Franklin, but I don't think we really need daylight savings time. I've always wanted to find that one guy who's in charge of daylight savings time. Somewhere in the world there's that one guy. And of course, the mother of all boat anchors is always our tax codes that occupy entirely too much of our intellectual bandwidth. So my recommendation for you is the next time you do your taxes, do them in Roman numerals and then send them in. When we talk about literacy, we always think about reading and writing. That's our natural tendency, to think about reading and writing. But then along came computers, and then we got into computer literacy, and then we got into web surfing literacy, and then search engine literacy, and things like social networking literacy, smartphones, and who knows what's else. Is there a faster, quicker process for getting information into our heads? Literacy is never static. So there was a piece of research done last year. I'll get the name in just a little bit here. They came to the conclusion that with all of the information that we have flowing into our heads, what they did is they divided it up into words. And so how many words do we have coming into our heads every day? And they concluded it was 100,500 words per day on average that we have coming into our heads. On top of that, it's increasing 2.6% every year. That's a lot of words. So where are these words coming from? So they did some analysis on it. Well, back in 1960, 26% of all the words came from printed material. Today, it's down to 9% and dropping. Television came in there in 1980. It had this huge surge. And now the computer area is taking up more of that space. So TV is still one of the big areas, and that's the largest, and computers are a close second now. So if you do a pie chart, this is where we're getting our words from every day. I find this quite fascinating. That section on gaming there, which is just that little sliver on the top, that's going to be growing very fast. In a recent article I wrote, books are now akin to an online forum. This is in 2020, 10 years from now, with authors, experts, and other readers available to discuss and answer questions on almost every important book ever written. People tend to resent the one-way flow of information. They want to participate in it. They want to interact with it. They want to make comments. Somehow they want to take ownership of it. My prediction is that within 10 years, the majority of libraries won't have books in them. That might be a little early. But if you think that's outrageous, 2009, the headline was "The Cushing Academy Goes Bookless." The headmaster says instead of a traditional library with 20,000 books, we're building a virtual library with students have access to millions of books. Then just a couple months ago, or just last month, University of Texas in San Antonio announced they're going bookless. It's the first major bookless library at any university in the United States. Now, I've written papers in the past on this concept of the electronic outpost. So if you have an electronic outpost, it's a library without books. Much of the labor content in libraries has to do with organizing, sorting books, and making sure that they're put back in the shelf in the right place, keeping track of them. If you eliminate that, then it gives you time to do other things. I'm not sure what the number is in Canada here, but in the United States right now, somebody who turns 30 years old, by the time they're 30 years old, will have had 11 different jobs. My prediction is that within 10 years, the average person that turns 30 years old will have had 200 to 300 different projects that they've worked on. Now, because of this, because it's turning into much more project-based work, we're going to start creating business colonies because people aren't good at lining up one project after the next after the next. Business colonies, I think, are the natural evolution of co-working spaces. And these co-working business colonies will work much like the movie industry, the way it works. When you have a movie project that comes in, it attracts actors and actresses and writers and directors and camera guys, lighting guys, makeup people. As soon as the project's over, they disband and they form around another project. It's a very organic process. Now, I actually see business colonies being owned by some of the large corporations. I think the large corporations are going to own their own colonies, and they'll staff it with 1 or 2 project managers, and then they will essentially lob projects over the wall into the business colony and let the colony sort out how they get the work done. A lot of them will be themed around certain areas like photonics or gamer colonies or biotech or nanotech. They'll take on lots of different configurations. But I actually see libraries playing an interesting role in the formation of business colonies because they need to have an information resource. Of transitioning libraries from a place where you go to consume things to a place where you go to produce things. I find that to be quite an interesting transition. People are no longer satisfied with just receiving information. They hate the one-way flow of information. They want to help create it. So this transition from readers to writers, from listeners to composers, from television watchers to television producers. Is it possible to create all that within that setting? So what does a production studio look like? It can look like a lot of different things. Certainly this is a little off the charts, crazy fancy. But you could easily create blogger stations, podcast studios, audio capture, audio editing studios, video capture, video editing studios. Even band practice rooms. I mean, this is on the opposite end of the spectrum from shh, be quiet, that libraries were known for. There's lots of bands on MySpace right now. They're all looking for a place to practice. So I'll guarantee if you had practice rooms for bands, it'd be full all the time. General music rooms, gamer rooms. Gaming is taking over the world, and it's actually very educational. When you look at some of the virtual worlds that are out there, Second Life, things like Webkins, World of Warcraft, Club Penguin, MetaPlace, Sloodle, Yville, there's just tons of them. Actually, you could produce mini theaters, have mini theaters, because people, once they create their little movie, they want to show their friends. Even searching the stars, mini planetariums, art studios. I like the idea of incorporating physical exercise and the idea of having a rec center next to a library. There's a lot of synergy that could take place there. Actually, when I go work out, I listen to audiobooks all the time when I'm either working out or riding bike. This one here is kind of a crazy new invention here called the walk station. Keep you active while you're trying to learn something. So I have a couple last-minute recommendations here. Almost universally, people feel uncertain about technology. What should I be paying attention to? There's all this new technology out there. People are feeling uncertain. So what we've done at the Da Vinci Institute, and what I'd recommend for you, is this idea of an expert series. And you just find the experts in your community, and you bring them in, and just let the public ask questions. And you could have it themed around different things. Each month you do this. So you could have a panel of experts that one month they're talking about new cell phone technology, the next month they're talking about social networking technology, and the following month new search technology. And so you can go through that. And what happens, you'll find, is that the community learns together. It's an interesting way of creating some good camaraderie. This idea of extending influence, I think libraries are in a particularly good position to influence people around them. There aren't that many library hater organizations out there. I think you're in a really good position.